Yo, what's up, everyone? It's your boy Jack Oates to go. You either know or you don't. Happy New Year, first of all. Sorry I haven't been posting much, but I wanted to make sure I had some good content to give you guys, so I'm not just reiterating things I've already said. But I wanted to introduce this new point, and I apologize for the clickbaity title. I just really wanted you guys to listen to this one because I do think the story will go in this direction in one way or another. I was thinking about this as I was rereading Black Clover. If you follow me on Twitter, you probably noticed I'm posting a lot of, because right now I'm just in the I just got out of the dungeon arc. With where we just went Mars and Klaus had his epiphany and whatnot. So I'm rereading some of this stuff, and it's letting me regain a lot of love for Black Clover. Not that I've lost any, but it's just that vintage Black Clover feel. I'm getting back. But as we know, Tabata is an insane writer. There's not a lot in the story that he's actually pulled out of his ass. He has alluded to so many things in the very beginning of this series, so that is a lot of the reason to why I'm rereading this. But today in this video, I wanted to talk about the potential of Yuno grasping the concept of using ley lines and what ley lines are, as well as why they are important. But yeah, forget the clickbait title. Am I saying Yuno is universal? No, not yet. But as we get into these, what ley lines are and the importance of them, I think you can understand why I would say that in the end game, not anytime soon, though. But I want to start out with what we see with Noct here. So I feel like Noct's place, the house that he brought Asta to, sits on top of a ley line. Noct may be able to travel through shadows, but there are probably more spaces like these that are connected via ley lines, where him and whatever people involved with these were able to travel through to get from place to place. I don't think this is something that Noct just created on his own. As that picture on the wall insinuates, there are more people that know about like this Devil Union stuff, and there's a reason why Noct had to go specifically to that house to invite Asta into the Dark Garden. Now, what makes this so cool is that the use of these systems. Before that, I do want to preface this. I want to say there are notes in history that describe not only pathways and tunnels being used via ley lines, but also gardens. So there's a little bit of weight going into this theory, or else I wouldn't put it out to you guys. But the use of the systems are briefly explained in Black Clover, but would also describe how elves could travel and stay hidden at the same time, as there are caves and tunnel systems in history that were believed to lead to elves. One in particular was called Cleves Cove Cave. Say that like 5 times fast. That I couldn't even write it down. Cleves Cove Cave. I can't say it. It's too many C's and D's. That's ridiculous. Cleves Cove Cave. It was said to lead to Elf House, otherwise known as Elfheim, and we know in Norse lore, Elfenheim is the highest realm of the 9 in Yggdrasil, which is the realm of the gods, or the highest in the elves. The elves already having a reputation of manipulating ley lines for many purposes makes this a really interesting concept. But to make it even more interesting, the official introduction to ley lines would be massively game-changing. Ley lines run across the earth and even the universe. This means if one is able to learn to fully harness that power, they would in turn be able to manipulate the very earth and universe as they wish. This, of course, wouldn't be an easy task by any means, which is why I said at the beginning, the potential is absolutely there, but it's more of an endgame thing than what I'm talking about. But I mean, even minor manipulations can produce cataclysmic events like tornadoes, earthquakes, volcanoes, all of that stuff. You actually see it here in this panel, where I believe it was Patri who was describing what elves could do at their highest potential. Maybe not their highest potential, but what they're known for doing. But yeah, they're known to cause cataclysmic events, but these are minor manipulations. Now, when you look into ley lines and why people were so fascinated by them, and why harnessing this power was important, it was because it was said that ley lines are used at its highest potential could be used to manipulate reality itself as well as bridge dimensions. So this is where things get really, really interesting. Which it brings me to my next point. It's Yuno's magic stone. There was a video I did a long time ago where I explained my thoughts on Yuno's amulet being akin to Griffith's Bayolet from Berserk, as it seemed to manipulate fate when it was initially introduced. When looking at the amulet, it shows a cross which are the 4 cardinal directions, which also show star points in between the 4. Whether this stone is manipulating ley lines for Yuno, amplifying his ability to do so, or Yuno is just accessing its power to do so is up for speculation. But we've seen the stone possibly give Asta the grimoire that he has, as well as bringing a full-bodied devil to the realm of the living. This all falls under the things that manipulation of ley lines can do. And if you have been following this channel and you did watch that video, I do explain why I do think Yuno or his amulet, or Yuno and his amulet, gave Asta that grimoire. And to even back it up with more recent events, Liebe didn't seem like he knew why the grimoire chose Asta. We know that grimoires operate off of mana, and it's really the mana that would choose the user that it goes to. So a grimoire with the anti-magic choosing Asta, but having Liebe not be aware of why it chose Asta is interesting. But when you look at the panel and the episode, it zooms in on Yuno's necklace. And why would it even do that? We hadn't even got an explanation of Yuno's amulet until the elf arc, and then further into like his dad finding it and giving it to him into the Spade arc, which isn't even been in the anime yet. It is coming up, which is exciting. But why it would be shown wouldn't make sense unless it had something to do with giving that grimoire to Asta. So that's where my head is at, just for anyone that is new to the channel that does not know what that means. That's why I said that. And then bringing Zagrid to the world of the living. This is something that ley lines can do, which is bridge worlds together. And that was the last stone Zagrid needed to actually do it. And that stone's specific purpose was to bring things into reality, to bring physical things into reality. So to kind of make things happen. And that's exactly what it did. So I mean, it's really interesting if you look into ley lines and all that stuff, and kind of correlate it with the show. But something I do want to go over is the first, and I'm not completely sure if this was the last, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was the first and last time we saw our light triad, Noelle, Asta, and Yuno, together and in action, which was in the dungeon towards the beginning of the series. Now, I believe this showed us the potential of all 3 of our protagonists, which, when linked together, make them an unstoppable and trio, and they set a highly complex and crucial dynamic to the world, if not the universe itself. If we take Yuno's potential to manipulate ley lines, then he can, at the highest potential, manipulate reality and bridge worlds. I want to get to a good picture. Yeah, let's talk about Noelle. Okay. But there's Noelle, where there was so much speculation on what arcane spell she acquired toward the end of the Heart Kingdom War. This was another post I made describing Noelle's connection to not only the Moray, but Yggdrasil itself, which grants her and her allies protection from reality itself. And to briefly go over it, I like I said, I don't really like rehashing stuff I've already said. I think it wastes a lot of time for people that have been following, but if you are just hopping onto this channel, the reason why I say this is that we get Noelle and the crew in, Elysia, which is pretty interesting to have happen, right? We just have them waking up and now they're in the land of the elves. And Patri says something interesting, that the Dryad called out to the elves and said, hey, go save these guys and bring them back here. Which is interesting because many people die. What's the word? People die every day, B. Like, it just happens. But what makes them so special? It's not like Patri has any real connection to Noelle, or any of the people that were there. If anyone, Sekre, he's got the best connection to, and that's weak in and of itself. So it just doesn't make sense until you put it together like this. Now, in Norse lore, there is a Valkyrie that works with the Moray. And if you're not familiar with the Moray, the terminology is the three sisters of fate, who lay outside of the laws of reality, and they don't abide by the basic rules of law, of life and death, and all that stuff. They control that. So there is a Valkyrie that works with them, and this is a water Valkyrie. And what this Valkyrie does is it carries out its duties as a Valkyrie, which is bringing warriors to Valhalla to train for Ragnarok. But this Valkyrie also waters the Tree of Life. So this Valkyrie is solely responsible for keeping the world alive. And if we take this concept and you have this Valkyrie on the brink of death, then you would have to assume, to keep this relationship alive, the Tree of Life would be in the best interest of Yggdrasil to keep this Valkyrie alive, so that in turn this Valkyrie can keep the tree alive. You see what I'm saying? So I do believe that whatever happened with this grimoire was the Dryad reaching out to Noelle to grant Noelle and the team one last push to survive those explosions and save those people. And the reason why everyone else in tow was spared was because Noelle allowed it to be that way. This goes into runes, and I did make a post about this. I'd rather you just go read it, but briefly, these Valkyries already have this special attribute about them where they can protect warriors that they choose. And this is the same with runes and runic magic. I did make a post about Odin and his discovery of runic magic. He lists off the charms that he knows. They were 18 words that he learned that granted these reality-altering abilities. And if he uttered one of these charms upon them, I think it was like the 14th charm that he learned, he could protect a single warrior, and that warrior wouldn't die. It didn't even matter if they were swung out with like a sword or an axe. They would not die, and they'd be able to keep fighting. This is how strong these words are. So when coupled with that and a Valkyrie, this makes things so much more complex and much harder to break. And I believe this is why Vonica was able to get injured as well, as part of another thing, but that's another video. I did make a post already, so I'd rather you just go read that. But yeah, this is something I wanted to note about Noelle. And if we couple Noelle with having the ultimate protection from reality / Yggdrasil, it makes her an unstoppable warrior. And whoever she brings with her into the line of battle will be safe no matter what. And then we have Yuno, who can manipulate reality and ley lines and cause these cataclysmic events and bridge worlds. These two together are already unstoppable and unbreakable. And then it brings us to Asta. We know Asta is anti-mana. He's almost anti-everything. Again, I will... I make these videos and assume that you guys have been following me on Twitter and vice versa. So excuse me if I don't flesh these things out as well as I could. But believe me, the information is in one place or another. Which is why I always suggest to go follow me on Twitter. You don't have to, but it does make listening to me a tad bit easier. But Asta is pretty much the breaker of reality and mana. And the reason why I include reality in this is not just because we've actually seen him do this. He's got that sword, the Demon Annihilator sword, that breaks charms and hexes and curses. And it's actually called causality breaking, which is breaking the laws of reality. And so Asta is void of being affected by mana like everyone else is. Can he be affected by it? Yes. But he can ultimately break it if he chooses to do so. So when you have all three together, you're going to get just this massively unstoppable force, and it creates such an intrinsic, complex, and crucial force that the world must have to rely on, because if any one of this light triad steps out of that balance, then it could cause a complete and total fallout, ultimate chaos even. But it's this whole dynamic has been so interesting to see, just all three of them growing, and I do believe Tabata has been leaving hints here and there to let us put the pieces together and figure out what's gonna happen here. And I mean, this is also anime, and we have to be thinking endgame, because no matter what, anime does end up becoming these knockdown blowout fights that are, debated to be universal, planetary, and multi-dimensional, whatever. So I'm trying to think of how we can get to this point in Black Clover. And I believe ley lines is going to be the first thing introduced to bring us to that point. But yeah, that's kind of all I got for this. I thought it was interesting. Let me know if you guys thought it was interesting in the comment section below. Hit me up on Twitter with your ideas and your thoughts. I think this is really cool. There's a lot more stuff that I would like to talk about, but I do want to keep this relatively short. So it's been nice talking to you guys. Happy New Year's. I hope everything goes the way you want it to this year. Make things happen this year. Manipulate your own ley lines. And with that, this has been Jacko's the Goat. You either know or you don't.